Welcome back to Open Window Politics. Today we're going to be going through a prediction between Governor Andy Beshear on the Democratic side. He, of course, is the governor of Kentucky, which is a very impressive feat. As you can see, Kentucky is in the safe red margin, and I think even with Beshear at the top of the ticket for the Democrats, Kentucky would most likely still be in the safe characterization. By some miracle, maybe it ends up in likely. I don't think that's very likely is a good word to put it, but that is going to be the state of Kentucky, which I won't talk too much about, but that was where he hails from. And then as you can see, the map here is looking a little more advantageous for Democrats. I think that Beshear would be a great option for Democrats to put forward for electoral success. He's won as a Democrat in Kentucky, and like I said, safe red state. And I think that his messaging would play well throughout the U.S., especially in the core 7 swing states that are really crucial for either party to win. So that is going to be, we're going to start with the likely characterization. We got the state of Alaska there in likely, and then I think there's going to be 2 more. I'm going to throw Ohio and Florida into the likely red margin. I think these 2 states, it would take quite a bit, and I'm not certain if Governor Andy Beshear could bring it into the lean category. I think it's a possibility. I feel like those 2 states are most likely going to end up in the Republican Party's category. These 2 states used to be regarded as some of the biggest swing states, as Florida especially is arguably the biggest swing state, but things have kind of changed and resulted in those 2 states shifting to the right. And I think that Beshear would be able to narrow it from safe. Generally, these 2 states are in the likely. But as far as 2 states that I think will end up in the lean category with these 2 candidates, I'm going to put Texas and Iowa, both in they are in J.D. Vance's column, but I'm going to put them as a lean margin. I think that Texas, in the long run, Texas will shift towards the Democrats. I'm not certain what election year will be the first Democratic victory. Democrats are hopeful they can win the Senate election this year in November in 2026. And you can look at my Senate predictions for the possibility of that. But for now, I'm going to put Texas into the lean red margin. And then that really just leaves us with these core 7 swing states that will really predict the presidency. I think I'll start with Nevada. In Nevada, I might even be willing to put this I'll put it into the lean category. I think Nevada is going to be one of the easier states for Democrats to win. As far as states they ended up losing in 2024, and they have, of course, lost every swing state except for the swing district there in Omaha. So that is going to be the state of Nevada, 6 votes for Governor Andy Beshear, 232 to 219. And then Arizona, I think Arizona will be a little more narrow, but I do think it would end up in Beshear's column. Biden was able to win Arizona, and he's definitely tried to play for the middle as a moderate, and I think that Beshear would do possibly an even better job of doing that, and I think that the state of Arizona also generally does vote for moderates. The state has 2 Democratic senators as well as a Democratic governor. Carrie Lake has lost virtually every election imaginable in the state of Arizona, and she is definitely on the more Trumpian wing of the party, and it'll be interesting to see. I think J.D. Vance has a better shot than Trump does in Arizona, just because, J.D. Vance, he does have some scandals, but they're far less than Trump, and I think that he would be a better pick for Republicans, especially in Arizona. But nonetheless, that's going to be in the Democratic Party's column, 243 to 219. Then we'll go on over to Georgia. Georgia has seen some great election results for Democrats since 2024, and with some not super important races, but some key races being won by Democrats since that election. And it'll be interesting to see both Georgia, North Carolina, and Michigan, which are going to be states we'll characterize, all have battleground Senate elections coming up this November. So whichever way those goes can give us an indication of which way the states are leaning for 2028. But as far as North Carolina goes, I feel less confident in putting that in Beshear's column. I think he would have a legitimate shot, but this state hasn't gone blue since 2008, and that was really a landslide election year for Democrats. And I think now is a favorable environment for Democrats on the national stage, but I don't think it is as high as 2008. So that's going to be 16 electoral college votes for J.D. Vance. And then that leaves us with the 3 Rust Belt states. So J.D. Vance and Andy Beshear, of course, are from neighboring states in the Rust Belt region, Kentucky and Ohio. So I think they would bloat both appeal well to voters in this area. I feel the most confident in calling Wisconsin for Andy Beshear. So that's going to be 269 to 235. So for Beshear, and I think the Rust Belt would vote together in this situation. Generally, the Rust Belt does. Voted together in 2016, all went for Trump. 2020, all went for Biden. 2024, all went for Trump again. And I think that they will largely vote together. I do think J.D. Vance's best hope is in the state of Pennsylvania, so we can do a quick little hypothetical. Should J.D. Vance win that, it would still not be enough electoral college votes to win the presidency. It would be 284 to 254. But like I said earlier, I do think the Rust Belt would vote together, in this case for Andy Beshear. So that is going to be 303 for the Democrat, Andy Beshear, to 235 for the Republican, J.D.